The moment her daughter's legs moved on their own, the champagne glass slipped from Vivian Hale's fingers and shattered across the marble floor of the Hale Grand Hotel. For 3 years, doctors had told her that Emma would never walk again. For 3 years, Vivian had built an empire, hired the best specialists in the world, and prayed every night for a miracle she no longer believed in. And now, in the middle of a black-tie charity gala, surrounded by 200 of the city's wealthiest guests, that miracle was happening, and it was running straight toward a stranger. If you believe in second chances, in the quiet miracles that happen when we least expect them, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Share this story with someone who needs a little hope today. And subscribe to Humanity Tales so you never miss a story that reminds you why life is still beautiful. Vivian Hale had not always been cold. She had once been a young mother who sang lullabies off-key and danced barefoot in her kitchen with her baby girl on her hip. But the accident that took her husband and left Emma's spine shattered had rewritten who she was. Grief had hardened into control, and control had hardened into an empire. She built Hale Global from the ashes of that single night, telling herself that if she could not fix her daughter's legs, she would at least give her the whole world instead. Money became her language of love, because it was the only one she trusted not to fail her. That evening's gala was meant to raise funds for pediatric spinal research, the same research Vivian had personally funded for years, chasing any thread of hope that might one day let Emma stand again. Emma sat in her wheelchair near the entrance, dressed in a soft pink floral dress, watching the glittering crowd with the quiet patience of a child who had learned long ago not to expect too much from a room full of adults in suits. She was used to being looked at with pity. She was not used to being looked at the way the man across the lobby was looking at her, like she was simply a little girl, nothing more, nothing less. His name was Daniel Reyes, and he had not been invited to charm anyone. He was there because his 6-year-old son, Noah, had won a raffle ticket from his school, and Daniel, exhausted from double shifts as a mechanic and unwilling to disappoint the one person who still believed in magic, had put on his only decent shirt and brought his boy to see the fancy hotel his classmates had been talking about. Daniel was not a billionaire. He was not even close. He was a single father who had spent the last 4 years rebuilding a life that had once collapsed around him in ways no one at that gala could imagine, carrying a past he rarely spoke of, and a kindness he had never let that past take from him. Noah wandered off toward the dessert table, and Daniel, scanning the crowd for his son, knelt down for a moment to tie his own shoelace near the entrance. It was such a small, unremarkable motion, a grown man crouching to fix his shoe, but Emma, watching from a few feet away, felt something stir in her chest that she had not felt in 3 years. She did not know why. She would later say it felt like her body remembered something her mind had forgotten, like a rope pulled taut inside her. And before the nurse beside her could react, before her mother even turned around, Emma pushed herself forward, and her legs, weak and trembling and impossible, carried her 3 unsteady steps toward the stranger with his arms opening wide. Vivian's scream caught in her throat and came out as nothing but breath. She had spent 3 years being told this could not happen, had spent 3 years hardening herself against hope, because hope was the most expensive thing she had ever lost money trying to buy. And now her daughter was walking, actually walking, toward a man she had never met, a man in jeans at a black tie event, a man whose secret past Vivian could not have possibly imagined in that frozen, suspended second. Daniel caught Emma just as her legs gave out, scooping her gently into his arms the way he had done 1,000 times for Noah when his boy stumbled learning to ride a bike. He did not know who she was. He did not know she was the daughter of the woman who owned the very building they stood in. He only knew a child had run to him, trusting and unguarded, and something in him, some old, quiet instinct he had buried under years of grief and guilt, rose up to meet her. He held her steady and looked into her wide, astonished eyes and said the first thing that came to him, gently, the way he used to speak to patients long before his life fell apart. "You did it, sweetheart, you did it, I've got you." It took Vivian several seconds to remember how to move. When she finally crossed the lobby, her heels echoing against the stone, she fell to her knees in front of her daughter, not caring about the purple silk gown pooling on the marble, not caring that 200 guests were watching the richest woman in the room crumble in real time. She pulled Emma into her arms and wept the way she had not allowed herself to weep since the funeral, and for a moment the entire gala fell silent, watching a mother rediscover her daughter's legs in the middle of a fundraiser for exactly this kind of miracle. It was only later, once the chaos settled and hotel staff had rushed Emma to be examined by the on-call physician, that Vivian learned who the stranger was. She learned it not from Daniel, who had quietly slipped toward the exit with Noah's hand in his, uncomfortable with the attention and unwilling to explain himself to a room of strangers, but from her head of security, who recognized his face from an old file no one had opened in years. Daniel Reyes had once been one of the most promising pediatric neurologists on the East Coast, a rising name in exactly the kind of spinal research Vivian had spent a fortune funding, before a hospital error that was not his fault but that he could never forgive himself for had ended his career and his marriage in the same terrible year. He had walked away from medicine entirely, changed his name's public footprint, and rebuilt himself from nothing as a mechanic, choosing grease-stained hands over the white coat that had once meant everything to him, because it hurt less than the alternative. Vivian found him 2 days later at the small garage where he worked, Noah doing homework on an overturned crate in the corner. She did not come as a billionaire that day. She came as a mother, still shaking, still unable to fully believe what she had seen. She told him what the specialists had said after examining Emma, that the movement was real, that whatever had triggered it might be the first sign of a recovery no one had predicted, that it may have been the shock, the joy, the pure, unguarded reaching toward another human being that reawakened something in her small, exhausted body. And she asked Daniel, gently, humbly, the question she never imagined herself asking anyone. Would he help her daughter, not as a doctor for hire, but as the man Emma had run to? Daniel did not answer right away. He looked at his son, who was watching with the open curiosity children have for grown-up conversations they do not fully understand, and he thought about the oath he had once taken and the promise he had broken to himself the day he walked out of that hospital for the last time. But he also thought about the weight of a small girl in his arms, trusting him instantly and completely, and how long it had been since anyone had looked at him like that instead of like a cautionary tale. Slowly, he said yes. Over the following months, something extraordinary unfolded that had nothing to do with wealth and everything to do with patience. Daniel worked with Emma 3 times a week, not in a sterile clinic but in the sunlit garden behind the Hale estate, using techniques he remembered from his old life and instincts he had never lost, no matter how far he had run from them. Progress was slow and painful and full of small defeats, but Emma kept trying, because she had felt once what it was like to reach for someone and have her body answer. Vivian, who had spent 3 years trying to buy her daughter's recovery, learned instead to sit on the grass beside her, to celebrate a wiggled toe the way she once celebrated billion-dollar deals, to measure success in inches instead of headlines. And somewhere in those quiet afternoons, watching a broken man teach her daughter to trust her own legs again, Vivian began to understand that the miracle in the lobby had never really been about walking. It had been about 2 people, both carrying invisible wounds, recognizing something honest in each other before either of them said a word. By the following spring, Emma took her first unaided steps across that garden, laughing so hard she nearly fell, and this time it was Vivian who ran to catch her, with Daniel standing just behind, smiling the way a man smiles when he finally forgives himself for something that was never entirely his fault. Noah and Emma became inseparable, 2 children who had each lost something and found each other anyway. And Vivian, for the first time since the accident that took her husband, let herself imagine a future that did not need to be controlled to feel safe. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who could use a reminder that miracles often arrive wearing the plainest clothes. Before we go, I want to ask something special. Comment the word hope below if you believe that broken people can still save each other, and that the family we find is sometimes the one we never expected to run toward. Thank you for watching Humanity Tales, and we'll see you in the next story.